There we go. Recording in progress. Was that a good analogy of what I just said? Is that what she sounded like, Emma?
Very good. Yes,
Awesome.
she did.
All right. So welcome, Emma, to the podcast.
Good afternoon.
It's an honor to have you. And the reason that we're here today is you're in my free private group and you're doing the things and you're struggling with some things.
Yeah.
And I'm here to help you with that.
Super, thank you.
No, you're welcome. So the first thing that I would like to ask you is, I ask all of my clients this because we can be so in our heads from day to day, we kind of forget what's going on from like the chin down. So I'll close my eyes with you so you don't feel too weird. And my hair's getting stuck in my armpit right now, but that's what usually happens because my hair is so long. Okay, so let's close our eyes. And if you was just to drop from your head all the thoughts that are whirling around and connected inward with your physical body, how does your body feel today? Just share with me whatever comes up.
So my body actually feels better today than it has in previous days. And I think part of that is because I do suffer with sort of bloating and things in my belly, and sometimes that can, and I do let that affect my day and my emotions. So that's probably the first thing that comes into mind. Obviously you can see I'm sitting down, so then kind of working a little bit further down, my bottom, my legs seem quite a bit heavier than the sort of the top part of my body. Is probably the best way to describe it. So yeah, I probably feel heavier at the bottom than I do at the top, and obviously as we kind of, I guess, talk a little bit more, the lower part of my body is probably where I have some of my challenges.
Okay, great. Open your eyes when you're ready. Thank you for that, Emma. And if you could describe how you feel in your emotions right now, what is the prominent emotion that you feel?
I want to say nervousness, but I actually want to say excitement, from feeling so privileged to have this call and this time. So I think it's nervous excitement is probably the best way to describe.
Yes, I love, that's one of my favorite feelings, actually, nervous excitement. You get used to that when you do personal development and spiritual growth. You get used to the excitement, but then the holy shit part at the same time. They go hand in hand. So just embrace that, and it's a pleasure to be able to do this with you, Emma.
Thank you.
So the first thing I would like to go into is, would you share with me what's been going well for you? So what, I know you've been in my group and there's quite a lot of content in there. What things would you say that you've really grasped or got a hold of, or have noticed an improvement from before you came into this world of food and body freedom?
So I think one of the things that you talked about, I think it was probably back in the summer, and one of the notes that I think I responded to a post, and one of the notes that you sent to me was around wearing something that you felt uncomfortable with. So I think I sent a photograph in my jeans, but my jeans that were quite snug, more like skinny jeans, because as I've sort of described, I do sort of, my biggest challenge is with the lower part of my body. So resonating with that and pushing myself to actually try and put on some jeans that I hadn't worn for a very long time. And especially because of COVID and things and working from home, it's very easy to just wear your joggers or, just casual clothes. So actually giving me a push to wear those and and I sent you a photograph in them, and the challenge in my mind of putting them on and how I would feel versus what I viewed myself looking like in the photograph. The vision on the photograph was more positive than what was in my head actually going to put them on and thinking about putting them on and actually physically putting on my jeans. So that was something that was incredibly powerful, and whilst it was incredibly uncomfortable, actually I've since then worn my jeans. I mean, yes, I've kind of, as we've integrated back into part work and part home, you know, I've worn them with like a long blazer or to kind of cover up some of my my sort of sense where I see as kind of my most prominent areas. But that for me's been sort of incredibly powerful. And I think I sent you a note that sort of said it wasn't as bad as what I'd envisaged, and it's only myself that I need to get over, really.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And it's so true. The fear of something is honestly worse than the actual thing.
Yeah.
Because my best friend told me this, and I love this, and I've used this for a few years now. If you're thinking about an event in the future, so let's say like you putting on those jeans back then last year, you felt the fear of doing the thing, but you've not done the thing yet, but you were feeling the fear. Would you, is that right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And so the fear is an invisible thing. It's just a feeling that is caused by the thinking of the badness or the fear that will come from doing the action, putting on the jeans. So knowing that fear is invisible and is a choice, faith or hope, or faith, when I say that, I'm not religious, I am spiritual, but faith is also invisible. And that's also in regards to something that's going to happen in the future. So if you was to connect to faith instead of fear about something, this can be anything, about something that's going to happen in the future, knowing that they're both invisible and they're both not real because they've not happened yet, they're just a feeling, what would you choose? I mean, of course, it's not just as easy as choosing that. There's some work to do, which we're going to go into today. But do you see how fear and faith are both invisible? They're both about something in the future. Actually, if we get a choice, because we're in control of ourselves, why would we not keep choosing faith and choose it until faith is just how you are, how you think?
I think what you described there is amazing, and that journey to get from kind of fear to worry to faith, and you know, that transitional period is it's probably going to take me a bit of work, but I think the ultimate of feeling like that's where you can get to, you know, anybody would be crazy not to want to change their shift in them, then the mind. And so for me, having some sort of tools in my toolkit to be able to get myself along that that road would be absolutely wonderful, because it is within you. And you know, in a professional sense, it's very easy for me to feel the fear and do it anyway, because it's that sense of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah. So in my professional world, I absolutely get it and can make that shift in my world. And spending that time for me, because we're all busy, there's lots of things that we need to do when the day runs away with you. Finding that time for me to actually work on me is going to be the best investment for me. It's just making those shifts, and those focuses to make me the most important thing for me, because then everything else will follow. But it's that it's that mind shift, but I'm really excited to kind of do that piece for me. And maybe I'm sort of, you put things off, or you maybe don't challenge yourself because of the uncomfortableness, isn't it? And you've got to be uncomfortable and get on that journey to get yourself along to the other side.
Absolutely. There's a few things I want to ask you around this. The first thing I want to share is, you're so right. It's being comfortable, being uncomfortable. However, I talk about a window of tolerance, because absolutely you need to step outside of your comfort zone in order to grow. However, if you take too much of a big step and the anxiety that you feel is more than the growth that you would get from taking that scary action, it's not worth it, because that's not self-love. It's almost like pushing yourself too much and not having the tools or the safety in your body to actually feel okay through it all and then have that growth there. So this brings me on to what you've shared about your professional world. So I have a question for you around that, Emma. So why do you think you can get comfortable being uncomfortable and take the action necessary in your profession? Why do you think you find that easier compared to something to do with your body image or how others may perceive you?
I guess because in your professional life, it's work, and you, as much as you live and breathe work, it's still work. And I think probably the scary bit is me.
Yeah, I would say, to help to prompt you with this, you're so right. Would you say that your work is directly linked or intertwined with your self-worth and what you make you mean as a person?
Yes, because I have really high standards of myself, and I'm quite like to do things right and a little bit of a perfectionist. So yes, I think 100%. I guess the difference probably is the insecurities, I guess you'd probably describe them, the insecurities that I have outside of the workplace are not the same inside of the workplace. So I can maybe deal with having high standards at work is quite, you can have a path for improvement. Outside of the workplace, it's very much down to me, and I guess I'm going back to that, creating the time and the focus on me, which I guess is the scary bit, really.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I'm hearing, and please just clarify this, I'm hearing that you're at work, you do attach your achievement, success and everything at work to your self-worth, but you're still able to take the actions that are uncomfortable and scary, because ultimately that environment, you feel more safe and supported if things weren't to go right or if it wasn't to go the way you wanted to. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, and I think as well, it's part of your job. And, you know, when you're in the workplace, actually some of the most valuable lessons you learn is by making mistakes and tweaking your style and moving forward, isn't it? Yeah. Whereas in my personal life, making mistakes isn't the right description, but failing at a challenge that you set yourself, for me, seems a lot more, it's more emotion, it's more about me, whereas I guess in the workplace I can take the emotional side out of it and learn from the development of, oh, I'd do this next time, and you crack on and you make the change and you improve. And I guess that's probably the missing piece, maybe, in my home life.
Yes. If you was to mark out of 10 your work life and the personal life, that you know, the body image, all that thing, in regards to how much is attached to your self-worth. So if you was to look at your body image, for example, and ask yourself the question, how much out of 10, with 10 being all of it, is my self-worth, meaning who you are, who you believe to be as a person, is tied up in the way you think your body needs to look? Well,
outside of work,
yeah,
100%.
So like all of it, basically.
Well, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It's probably something that I fixate on probably too much, which is why I'm giving it a really high score. Yeah.
And then if you take a look at your work life, how much percent would you say relied or was connected to your self-worth and what you make yourself mean as a person, aka if something didn't go right? You've mentioned you can separate that a little bit.
Yeah.
So what would that score be?
I think it would still be quite high because of my personal standards, but it wouldn't be as high as in my personal life. So yeah, probably like 80%, something like that, because in work I don't like to say that somebody has a work me and a home me, because you are you. But there are qualities and actions and things that you do in the workplace that, you know, I can make decisions and be quite, you know, decisive and decide what I'm going to do and go with that. And then as long as I've got the facts, I can move forward. Whereas in my home life, you know, ask me what I'm going to eat for dinner tonight and I might be like, oh, for the next hour. Whereas ask me to make a decision in work and I go, done.
Yes.
So it's probably, yeah. Does that make sense?
100%, Emma. It makes sense, because what I'm seeing is a lot of you, and this is so often the case, like when I first work with clients, and I experienced this myself for like many years, 90 to 100% of someone's self-worth is linked and entwined directly with their body image, meaning if they don't think that they look okay physically, they feel that they can't be okay. They have anxiety about it. It affects their life. They're not going to wear the clothes because they're worried about what other people think. I know you find these things familiar.
Yes, 100% familiar. Yeah.
So what would you think if I told you that it is possible to feel 100% worthy without anything being attached to that self-worth, without work being attached, without body image being attached, without even you doing something to be attached? Does that feel completely alien to you?
Do you know, it feels like it sounds wonderful. Is probably my best expression, kind of, as you've described that. Yeah.
And it absolutely is possible. So the reason I've shared this with you is because I didn't even know that was a possibility when I first started this work. I was like, wait, what? You can feel worthy as a person and feel strong and proud and in love with who you are without looking this way or without earning this much money or without doing this for someone. And I was like, but that doesn't make sense to me. And I was very confused around how can you even manage that? But when you do the work, which you're on this journey, it's a journey. It's not like a diet, like a quick fix thing where it's like, you know, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days to whatever. It takes work, it takes consistency, and it's a lot of it's really uncomfortable. But when you keep peeling back the layers and doing the inner work, which I'm going to go through like some really key stuff with you today, little by little, the body image stuff, the work stuff, let's say the self-worth is in the middle, it will start to like detach from it. So you can still have work goals, you can still have, you know, health goals and want to dress your body nicely and take care of yourself. But in the middle, you just stand proud in yourself, knowing I'm worthy exactly as I am. And I wasn't here for, you know, for most of my life. So coming through the other side, I just want to create that possibility for you. Even if you don't know how yet, that's okay. That's something that's available to you. And so just imagine like what that would feel like.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard probably to imagine right now. But at the same time, the the freedom and the I don't know how to say it. I guess sort of at the moment, if you kind of feel like this, it's kind of like, I would imagine you'd just go, oh.
Mm. Yes.
It's definitely for, I would have said for anybody, if it's got to be worth putting the effort in for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how, I mean, people listening to this, you won't be able to physically see us, but do go and check out the YouTube version. When you did this, that is such a great physical way of describing the feeling, because your heart chakra is open, you standing proud. It's not like, look at me, I'm the bomb. It's just like, it's like, you know, there's a reason why I call you all queens the whole goddamn time, is because you're stepping into that like queenhood within you. You're getting dressed in your queen energy every day. And if you think about how a queen lives her life, she's not worried, do I look okay? Does my hair look okay? Does this look good on me? She knows, like, whatever choice she's decided to dress herself in today, she's happy with that. So she doesn't need reassurance from others. There's like an energy, it's kind of like a different energy, isn't there, to a queen compared to someone like a princess who's a little bit more insecure. And that's okay, because we have to go through stages. If we were just born a queen, there'd be almost be no point, because, well, you've not worked through anything. You've not discovered things about yourself. So I would love to ask you what your intention is. So if you was to walk away from this call, what would you like to feel or get clarity with, or know something about yourself you wasn't knowing before? What would that be?
I guess a couple of things, really. I guess first and foremost, it's probably being able to be, or have the skills to be kinder to me. Mm-hmm. Because I think some of my challenges are around, you know, being tough on myself because, I don't know, you're working from home and you haven't got your 10,000 steps in today. Something as might sound ridiculous to anybody listening, but, you know, I do hold myself accountable for most things. So being able to be kinder to myself, and I guess if it's possible, you know, being able to quash my inner bee, and having the tools to be able to identify something when it comes in the first instance, rather than letting it take hold or get on top of you, or, you know, make you procrastinate on things. So yes, I think that would probably be my my goals, if that's
oh, it's so doable. And it's actually one of my
sounds
favorite.
a lot, doesn't it?
Sounds a lot. Like I said to you, like, you know, in one call we can't, and I want to say the word fix, we're not fixing, because there's nothing to fix within you. After just one call, there's loads more layers to the whole thing. That's what I'm saying. That's why coaching is so powerful, because I'm holding up a mirror for you, holding space for you, a safe space, so you can feel like you can share. I also resonate because I've been there. Like, you know, when someone says to me, I feel this way in my body and I binged this last, and I'm like, I literally know how you feel. I've not just read it in a book. And this isn't to slate anyone who is doing what I do that hasn't experienced it, not to slate them at all, but there's a different level of depth that you can go to with a client when you've been there like multiple times yourself. And one of my favorite things, and the most profound thing that helped me in my journey, Emma, was my self-talk. So I'm so glad that you brought this up. Before we go into a little exercise where I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to be typing some things, and I'm going to ask you at the same time, I want to just ask you a few questions to get to the bottom of something that, when I got to the bottom of this a few years ago, it just like blew my mind and it changed things straight away. And then we can go into the work. So give me one example of what your inner bitch says to you most frequently on a regular basis?
I feel like I want to laugh when I say this because I'm going to sound silly. It maybe sounds silly, but like the shape of my legs within my clothing is yeah, it doesn't look very nice. It's probably
Okay.
you look fat in that is probably a very northern description of
And nothing sounds silly, I promise you that. Like, nothing. Like, I've heard it all. The thoughts I've thought sometimes, I'm like, oh my God, where the hell did that come from? That's so mean. So we'll take that thought as an example then. So she would say, you look fat in that.
Yeah.
Right. So let's dig a layer deeper. So why do you think she said that to you?
Honestly, because it's something that I've thought for as long as I think back, if I'm being honest. So I guess it's ingrained in my thought process, and if something's ingrained within your thought process, then it's a habit, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I want to talk about this before I ask you another question.
Okay.
What you're describing there is exactly right. It's wired in your thought process, which means automatically when you go to the mirror and check your outfit or whatever, it's almost guaranteed that she's going to say that to you because she's been saying it for however long.
Yes.
Yes. But we can rewire. That's the first time I've said that without doing the rewire thing. We can rewire our thoughts. It's called neuroplasticity if you want like the more scientific words, but it takes conscious effort because habits are unconscious. So maybe you're going to the mirror and unconsciously you're just hearing it because it's just been on replay for however long. But the most important thing is you're acknowledging it, you're noticing it, because then that's in your conscious awareness now. So then when we go through this exercise in a minute, you can keep doing this. And then you will physically rewire your brain physically. And then it will just be your norm. Like, honestly, now, if I'm mean to myself, doesn't feel right at all. Like, I almost can't be mean to myself. And that is a big, profound statement to make. Whereas 4 years ago, I was the biggest bitch to myself, and being kind to myself felt weird and it just didn't feel right to me because it was new to me.
Yeah.
So absolutely right. That's a reason why. But if you go back, it doesn't really matter when you first thought it. Intellectually looking at this now, why do you think she said that to you in the first place, regardless of how long she's been saying it to you?
Well, maybe because she doesn't know what else to say. Maybe. And maybe the fact that I, looking in the mirror, don't maybe give myself a break. I guess.
Why do you think, what's her motivation behind saying that to you? What's she trying to do? Do you think she's trying to be what we call her, a bitch? Do you think she is genuinely, and there's no right or wrong here because I'll get to the point of it anyway, but do you think she is trying to be nasty to you on purpose?
Yes.
Yes. And that is no right or wrong answer, because this is great, because like I say, it blew my mind when I got to the root of it. So I'll give you a few more minutes. This isn't wrong, by the way. I'm just going to share my perception.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you think, so she's saying to you, you look fat in that, which is a mean comment to make. And on the surface, it looks like she's being a bitch, which is why we call it being a bitch, right? It's not helpful to you.
Absolutely not.
It's not benefiting you.
No.
So that doesn't make sense for human behavior, because as a human, which you are, and everyone watching, listening to this is definitely going to be a human, there's always, always, always a reason why we do something. Always. There's always a secondary gain to everything. So she's saying you look fat in that. The reason she's doing that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is she's trying to protect you from someone in the outside world thinking Emma looks fat in that. Do you see that?
Yes, and that absolutely wasn't what I thought you was going to express.
What did you think I was going to express?
The other part of my inner bee with regards to dieting and like losing weight and feeling better about myself. So if my inner bee is nasty and horrible to me, then I'm more likely to do more about.
Yes, that is so key.
The other side. So I thought that's what you were going to describe, but I hadn't considered what you've just described there. But what you've described there makes absolute sense, going back to the putting on the jeans and how I felt and taking the photograph and the perception of how I felt or was going to feel versus what I looked like. It makes complete sense. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, because your fear is the fear of being judged by other people. Otherwise, you wouldn't give a shit. You'd wear the jeans, you'd go naked, you literally wouldn't care. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So your fear is what other people are going to think of you. So your inner bitch kindly, and when I say kindly, it's not kind, but she's like, oh, you look fat in that, because if I tell you that, which therefore means you won't do the action, you're not going to be ridiculed or be judged by other people. So actually, underneath everything, this gets me emotional every time, all there is love, literally, for yourself. Self-love is what we're born with. Self-love is our birthright. It's just remembering to come back to who we are. And even your inner bitch is loving you by saying mean things to you to try and protect you.
Because you heard it from yourself first rather than somebody walking down the street.
Exactly, because she's trying to protect you from the judgments of others, which is what your fear is.
Yeah.
So knowing that, I think that's really key before we go on to this exercise. That's key for anybody to know anyway, because I'm sure most of you, or maybe you have, Emma, heard the saying, whatever you resist persists.
Whatever you resist persists. I haven't heard that, but...
Great saying. I think it was by Eckhart Tolle from the book The Power of Now, which is a great spiritual book if anyone's not read that yet. What you resist persists, meaning if you're fighting something and being like, go away, it's going to get, like, whatever you focus on grows. It's another way of saying it. So what some people make the mistake in doing is when their inner bitch comes along looking like a nasty bitch and the things she says aren't kind, they're just being like, go away, don't want to hear you, go away from me. And that's actually not helpful, because what you're trying to resist, she's just going to persist. Whereas if you come with a different kind of outlook and then say, I hear you, thank you for trying to protect me, I love you, but I don't need your input anymore, I've got this, she's more likely to just fade away. Can you see the different kind of energy that comes behind all of that?
Yeah, and it's very conscious as well, isn't it?
Yes.
So my inner bee right now is just there, and it's making that conscious decision or that conscious change to recognize and then try to deal with it rather than letting them take over.
Yes, this is key, because when you described that, it's almost like you are your thoughts? Do you feel like sometimes like you can see no separation between you and what you're thinking?
Yes.
Yeah, and I did too. I didn't, when someone said to me, you're separate from your thoughts, I was like, what? But then actually, we are not our thoughts, and our thoughts aren't facts either. I can look out the window now and think, I'm going to go and climb that tree. That was a random thought. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it. It doesn't mean it, or I could look outside the window, and I know you can't see, so this probably is defeating the object, and I can look at the orangey leaves and say, those leaves are purple. It's not true, but I've thought it. You know, so when we can take more of a back seat from our thoughts, knowing that our thoughts aren't facts, our thoughts aren't the truth, and actually everything, beneath everything, all there is love, then we can start to progress from a place of self-love, curiosity, instead of like trying to fight the thoughts away, and I'm not listening to you, and I'm going to choose to wear the jeans, and almost like forcing yourself into trying to do something that you think that will help you. But it's always like the motivation behind the, like, what's the energy behind you doing the thing? If you're being a bitch to yourself, saying, put on the jeans, get it done, Victoria said to do, like kind of bullying yourself into it, you're not going to, I mean, you might experience some growth when you realize that when you've worn the jeans, no one's died, because that's what the fear generally thinks. Like, I'm literally fearful of my life because this fear is so intense right now. You probably will get some growth, but imagine going into it in a different self-loving way. This is really uncomfortable right now. I'm acknowledging that, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable. I'm noticing all these inner bitch thoughts trying to protect me, even though they're quite mean and they're not helpful. I'm going to love them and release them and choose to do the thing anyway, and like almost cheerlead yourself into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a completely opposite approach, isn't it? And it's a really, really positive approach. Yeah.
And self-loving. So I want to do a little exercise with you now. So I'm going to share my screen. Where's my screen share? You know, I share my screen every day, and now I seem to not be able to find my sharing screen. Bear with me a sec. Oh yeah, there it is. It's in green. Right. Can you see that, Emma? That Google document that I've not typed much in yet, but I'm going to.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So those that are listening, feel free to go to the YouTube, but I am going to talk through it as well. So it will make some sense, I promise. So what we've got here is there's so many different tools I can use, but I've chose this one today, but there's also another one that's going to be really helpful for you. Let's go through this today. So when I was talking about rewiring your brain, so neuroplasticity, so then kindness will just be a habit to you. And so then you'll be literally living a life of someone who loves themselves because that's what you've chosen. That's what you've worked on every day. This is a key thing that will really help. So I want you to share with me. We can use the same thought. We can use a different thought. It doesn't matter. Tell me about a situation that has happened or happens in your life that you always feel anxiety, or it's difficult for you. You always have your inner bitch popping up. Like, share with me what a situation would be in the life of Emma that you've experienced before.
So a real situation right now is that I've got quite a busy year next year, and some key sort of things coming into the diary. So maybe like a lot of people over COVID lockdowns and being a little bit more inactive, I wanted to kind of lose some, like a little bit of weight in preparation for next year for things that I've got in the diary, and not making the progress that I would like to make within my journey has made my my inner self kind of talk to me quite a lot more and be a lot more prominent. So, you know, on a daily basis at the moment, I am sort of battling with myself to be a better version of me, whatever that looks like, whether that's with food, whether that's with exercise, whether that's, you know, fitting more things into my plan for the day so that I can make the most of my day to try and see some results that I want to see. Is that a good enough example?
Perfect. So what we're going to do is I'm going to write in the situation, see if this resonates with you, upcoming event. Would that make sense to like a situation, whether it would be a party or something where you're worried about something that's going to cause you anxiety in this moment if you was to think about it? Yeah. So when you think of that upcoming event, what thoughts automatically come into your head?
The thoughts that I've already sort of talked about, in terms of my inner bee saying if I sort of don't lose the weight that I have set myself out to lose, that I'm going to look fat in you know, my outfit for the races, for example.
So if I don't lose weight, because I'm writing it into a sentence for this exercise. So your thought would be, if I don't lose weight, then I'm going to look, what word comes to mind?
Fat.
Going to look fat. Okay. And how does that make you feel when you think that?
It makes me feel, I was going to say sad, but sad's an emotion, a very emotional word. I think I would probably say disappointed.
In yourself?
Disappointed in myself, exactly, yeah.
You know, my mum always used to say to me, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. And that literally broke my heart, you know, when I was a child. I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. And I'll be like, oh, my heart's just broke. I'd rather you be angry, please.
Yeah.
So that's a painful emotion to feel.
Yes.
So because you feel disappointed in yourself, what action do you take or not take because you feel disappointed?
So I'm probably going to sound a bit crazy when I say this, but what I would class as like drastic action. So maybe like other people listening, life is about balance, and my rational mind says that, but my inner mind doesn't see that, and then I become like an all or nothing, and then the all or nothing becomes, it drives your inner mind, which then circulates, and then
so it's like a cabbage soup diet kind of action. So feeling disappointed in myself, right? Okay, so my plan for tomorrow, I need to get my 10,000 steps in, I need to do my run on the treadmill, and I need to do my I need to do some weight, so I need to do like I need to go above and beyond. Do you know what I mean? Or if I've had a really busy day at the office, and you know my commute's an hour each way, and I've missed being able to get my workout in, right, I need to do 2 tomorrow to make up for that's dramatic or drastic action. What I'm describing here might not be considered drastic to other people who maybe work out twice a day. That's just their norm. But for me, drastic measure is either making things up for what I've missed, or going above and beyond to try and get the results that I want as quickly as I can. Oh, I remember that, all of that, like it was yesterday. So remember all of that, and I'm so glad I'm free from that. But I really resonate with what you're saying. Feeling disappointed, taking drastic, I'm going to say drastic measures sounds better. Taking drastic measures. What's the result of taking those drastic measures, or the lack of result if it didn't work? Like, what do you tend to get in result of all of that?
So you actually, and I can, and when you've said about yourself and listening to yourself, I'm listening to myself now, and I know what I'm gonna say is completely, you know, crazy, but the result is that it's not sustainable because you expect too much of yourself. You can't do everything that you want to do in the day because you haven't set yourself a realistic plan. And then you go back to one of the things that my inner beast says is around consistency and around achievement, and my kind of high expectations for myself. Well, then I've failed myself. And then you go back to the
exactly that,
the wheel again. Yeah,
because would you say that if, you know, the end result is it's not sustainable, it's not realistic, would you then say you feel disappointed in yourself, and then you it's literally like a, what do they call that circle when you're stuck on it? Well, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy also, but at the same it's its own feedback loop.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, this isn't a jokey question, I really want to ask it because sometimes we need to be asked it outright. How's that working for you, Emma?
Well, the closer that I'm getting to the deadline that I gave myself of Christmas, is actually driving my inner bee to talk to me more, to not control me, but be more there.
Yeah.
Which then drives negative thoughts in myself. And I see myself as quite a positive person with quite a positive outlook generally. But the inner side of me that people don't see is absolutely probably the opposite to how I portray myself or how I would come across to other people. So inwardly, the impact is a lot, and I do put, like I've already said countless times, I do put a lot of pressure on myself. So actually this pressure that I put on myself is actually building. And the more that the time scale is reducing, the more that the inner bee's talking, the more that I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I need to take more drastic action. And then I'm going back to that,
like a hamster wheel. So you're not actually getting anywhere, but all you're left with, the residue, is more anxiety and more control, like, because control and anxiety are like peanut butter and jelly or whatever. Let me put it into a context. I would say control and anxiety are like brownies and ice cream. They go together very well. And actually any form of disordered eating or body image struggles is underlying anxiety. Yes. It's the worry, what if someone thinks this of me, what if and then we try and control because we want to try and make ourselves feel safe and like we're in control of something. But what you've shared, it's not working for you. You're not happy in this feedback loop.
Absolutely not. And okay. I don't think anybody would be, or
not unless they're a masochist. Is that where you like pain to yourself, a masochist, or is that someone else's pain? I don't know.
No, nobody should have to, if they choose to live with pain that they cause for themselves, whether, absolutely not, because there's so much more to life and living and making the most of every experience that we have. So absolutely, it's not working for me right now.
All right, so we're going to do another one, and this one we're going to work backwards up, so down and up. So this thought model that we're doing together now, have you got an extra 10 minutes? I want to check on your time. Have you got to be back at work or anything like that, or are you okay?
I'm okay, yeah.
Okay, great. So this thought model we're going to produce together now. As you're answering, I want you to connect to the future version of Emma that is available to you, that is living in food and body freedom and like literally self-love.
Okay.
So, and then we're going to go through it together, because there's one really key aspect in all of this. It's not just about choosing the opposite thought and sticking it down, because that's not going to work either. But let's work backwards. So if you connect to the situation, you've got an upcoming event.
Yeah.
What would be the best case scenario? Like, what would you want the end result to be with this upcoming event?
Being completely happy with myself. So yeah,
feeling happy and confident in who you are and your body, and
comfortable, I think, is probably is maybe a better word than happy, because if you're comfortable, then you're going to be happy, aren't you? It's like happiness comes connected from being comfortable.
Yeah. So being comfortable in myself, is that what the language you would use?
Yes.
Okay, great. So if, again, working backwards, if the end result was feeling comfortable in myself, what action would you have to take or not take in order for you to feel comfortable in yourself?
I think I don't think this is a very good explanation, but I think the best way that I could describe it is kind of like, I need to give myself a break.
Hell yeah. I love that, because you're connected to the self-loving version of Emma.
And if you love yourself, then you don't want to do everything that you've done to yourself in the first model. So it's kind of like, I guess, I'm not sure that's a very good explanation, but
so if it was to be an action or a lack of action, knowing that the other thought model, the previous one, was like drastic measures, what would the self-loving version of you take as an action if she was to take
everything? Sorry, everything in moderation. So it's like if everything's in moderation, then you can be consistent, and if you can be consistent, then there's no drastic measures, and you kind of everything in moderation will bring consistency, because
it's doable, and it's actually actually doable, and it's not like I'm going to go to the gym 80 times this week. It's like, let me have a look at my schedule. I can honestly manage 3 to 4 workouts this week, so I'm going to put them in. Self-love is also about giving yourself a kick up the arse when, perhaps you can't be bothered to go to the gym. But if that's important to you, it's using self-discipline to get yourself there. But then at the same time, self-love is if you had a work meeting that overran and then there's traffic on the way home and you literally, really, honestly haven't got time to go. Self-love is being like, that's okay. I had the intention of going. It's a bit shit that I didn't go, but honestly, I'm going to love you anyway. There's nothing you can do about it, without being like, right, that means tomorrow I've got to go on a run and do weights and do a class. It's kind of like, it's like high expectations, low standards that I like to live by.
Something that you've just described there kind of has triggered with me, I guess, to be comfortable in self-love, if that's the right description. You've got to trust yourself, haven't you? Because what I liked there, what you've just described is, yes, it's okay to say, well, I've missed the gym because my meeting overran, for example. But the bit that you described there about giving yourself a kick up the bum. So those two scenarios, you've got to trust yourself within the whole process to know that you're going to trust yourself to give yourself a kick up the bum, or trust yourself to be okay with having a change of plan. So I just took that from kind of the little bit that you gave there.
Yeah, that's great, Emma, because how do you think, so my question for you around this is, how do you think you can start trusting yourself more?
Because I need to do the opposite of what I'm doing.
How do you, so say if you're doing something, say let's take that example of, let's say this is a great example because only you will know the answer to this. And this is where self-love and self-trust comes into. Let's say tomorrow morning your alarm goes off and you'd plan to get a workout in the morning.
Yeah.
And your alarm goes off.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two different scenarios here. And only you would know which one would on, because it's all about a feeling. You know by feeling what's right and wrong for you. Yeah. If the alarm went off and you were like, I really can't, like I'm really not feeling the gym today. And then you snoozed it and then you went on with your day.
Yeah.
Or your alarm went off, you checked in with yourself and you were genuinely like not feeling 100%. Maybe your body was tired from the workout the day before, or you genuinely didn't feel great in yourself. There's a difference between being lazy, in all honesty, because you could have got yourself out of bed, or genuinely your body's saying like, girl, I really like, I need to rest today. But only you know the answer to that.
Yeah. Happened this morning.
Oh, did it? And what was the end result of that?
The end result was that I was lazy and said I would do my run after work tonight.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
What was you going to say? Sorry.
I was just going to say, but yesterday I got up and went and did my HIIT workout, and I felt so much better for doing it first thing. So it's easy to say it's mind over matter, but it's actually trusting yourself to know what the right thing for you is. And part of the reason why when you said in the beginning, how do you feel today, I'm convinced that part of the reason for feeling better in myself today is because of what I did yesterday, which is why I should have done the same thing again this morning. And so it is it really resonates with me what you've just described.
So how do you think you can know if the same thing happened tomorrow? How do you think you can check in with yourself and know what's right for you? Like you've already experienced both, so you know the answer, but what is it that you maybe feel or experience within yourself where you kind of know, kind of being lazy, or I'm generally sick or tired, or I'm actually going to get myself out of bed because I'm going to feel better? Like, what is it for you? Do you feel a feeling? Do you see a vision? Is it just a subtle overall knowing? Because everyone's different. So this is going to help you connect with your intuition.
I think the focus for me is focusing on how you feel when you've done the work.
Yeah. Because
the overriding feel of how you feel when you've done the work speaks for itself and is incredibly powerful. It's easy to listen to ourselves and just say, oh, I'll just snooze for 15 minutes, or I won't bother this morning. It's cold, or whatever it might be. But I think it's tapping into the actual the feeling of how you feel afterwards, because that's what is the most powerful for me. I think that's what's the most powerful. It's remembering that feeling, which is what you kind of need to do at the right point in time, whether it's in the morning or whether it's you've logged off at the end of your day and you've had a stressful day and you're shattered, but you still need to do the work at the end of the day. And something on here about the everything in moderation and the consistency. It's those little steps, isn't it? So
Absolutely.
rather than me being all or nothing, it's like the little steps. Well, go and do 20 minutes instead of 45. It's that
it's a mindset of letting go. And again, I've so been there with a black or white for many years. It's letting go of the black or white and being okay with being in the grey area. And I used to think the grey area was pointless because it was average and I'm not being considered average. That's how egotistic I used to be. is either all or nothing, else I'm not even bothering. I'm either doing it all or not bothering. But the grey area is where peace and happiness and comfortability, is that a word, comfortability? Made it up if it isn't. Being comfortable, that's the grey area. And one thing before we finish this thought model, we've gone on a bit of a tangent, but this is really helpful.
Sorry.
No, it's not you, it's me also. The conversation's flowing. I'm good for another 5 or 10 minutes. So analogy, so to clarify for you specifically as a human, Emma, you've just clarified to me what helps you do the things that you want to do is to remind yourself with the feeling you feel after you've taken the action.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's something you can use going forward in the future. One analogy I'd like to give, which is a really powerful vision, I think, imagine you've got a bank account, but instead of money, it's self-love currency. So you can either withdraw or deposit into your self-love bank account. So a great question to ask yourself if you're not sure of doing anything. So let's say you finish work, it's quite late, it's on your schedule to work out, but the best thing that would be for you to do for yourself would be to go home, have a nice dinner, relax and get an early night. You could say to yourself, right, my workout's planned. If I went to the gym, would that be depositing into my self-love account, or would it be withdrawing from it? And you could ask the other question, if I went home and relaxed and had a nice meal and had an early night, would that be depositing or withdrawing from my self-love? And again, only you know the answer to that.
That's a really good, I like that. That's a really good way of considering your actions. Yeah,
so that will be helpful going forward. And obviously, as we know, drastic measures is just going to be withdrawing from that account, and you've got nothing left.
Yeah.
So let's finish this thought model then.
Thank you. Yeah.
The self-loving version of you would have everything in moderation, which would then equal consistency because it's actually doable. Yeah. What would you need to feel in order to be able to be, okay, I'm going to do all of these things in moderation? What feeling would you need to feel in order to be able to take that action?
I want to say rational and reasonable with myself, but I'm not sure if that is
if that's what's come up for you. Always trust. This is a great practice to trust yourself. Anyone as well listening, the first thing that comes to mind is the answer. And then what happens is our logical mind takes over and starts to question it. Does that make sense? Does it look stupid? So the first thing that comes to you, that's your answer. So that's what I'm going to take.
Okay.
So rational and reasonable, did you say?
Yeah.
Rational and reasonable. Okay, so this is the key part, and this is where we need a little bit of work together. What thought would you have to think in order for you to be as close to feeling rational and reasonable as you can? The key with this thought is you've got to believe it now, or a little bit of glimmer of hope that you could believe it. Because if it's just the complete opposite to, like, the original thought was, if I don't lose weight, I'm going to look fat. If you just put here, I look perfect now, every cell of your being doesn't believe that. So it's not going to be that helpful. So that's the example I've given. So hopefully it makes a bit more sense. So what can you think? Because our thoughts create our feelings. Yes, we have instant feelings and thoughts that come to our bodies and our minds from all our past experiences. That's how we are as humans. But then we get a choice. This is what people mean, and myself included, when we say happiness is a choice, freedom is a choice, all these annoying things that used to annoy the hell out of me, because I'd be like, how the fuck is happiness a choice when you're like sad about something? This is what we mean, because you've been given this, you feel sad, you're thinking all these, right? Distance yourself from the thought. I get to choose a new thought that I believe, which will help me feel a different way, which will then lead on to everything else. And the more we do this and build up from it, the thought will be a higher vibrational thought today. It'll be a little bit of a better thought tomorrow. And this is why it takes time, But we've got to do this work, otherwise nothing will change. It will just get worse.
So a little bit like your daily affirmations, isn't it? When you look in the mirror and you say whatever you choose to kind of
Exactly that.
talk to yourself about. So I think my thought would be, this is, I guess this is a little statement. I can look great in the year ahead without being a particular weight on the scales.
Oh, love that one. Yeah. Of course, let me just wait. By the way, homework for you and everyone listening, throw out your scales. Don't weigh yourself. It will be the biggest gift you can give yourself. And I know that's like super scary and anxious provoking. You don't need the scales, because even if you needed to go back into control mode to help you feel safe about something and you wanted to like know your size, you know your size by your clothes.
Yeah.
So you don't need a piece of metal telling you whether you can have a good day today or not, or whether maybe you're due to bleed on your period next week, or maybe you've had more carbs and then a bit more salt. Like, you don't need any of that shit, because it doesn't mean anything.
It's toxic though, isn't it?
So
absolutely
toxic.
Yeah.
Yes. So do you believe, or you either believe it, or there's a glimmer of hope that it can be possible for you, Emma? So if you were thinking, I can look great in the year ahead without being a particular weight on the scales, is that a belief of yours now, or do you think you can possibly believe that in the near future? Because this is the key part.
Yeah, and I think that's why I phrased it how I did, because I think it's something that you can believe, or I can believe now, feeling how I feel. But I think it's absolutely reasonable. It's achievable if you put the work in, and the more work that I put in, the what is great, like yes. Great to me right now versus great to me in a month's time, in 2 months' time, in 6 months' time. That great vision might stay the same, or it might change, but it's kind of like, the statement can move with me, can't it? Does that?
Yes, absolutely. I love that so much. And I love that feels true for you right now, because also as a reminder, the top one, it's not working anyway. So it's not, I mean, even if you felt control and anxiety and it was working, at least it would be working, but it's not even working.
Yes.
So that's really helpful to remind yourself, like, the control and the anxiety thinks it's like doing something positive because of the energy it is. It feels like you're doing something and you're getting somewhere, but you're actually not. So it's almost funny because it's not working anyway. So when fear pops up and you're maybe scared sometimes to go down this route, the second thought model we've done, to choose rational, reasonable, moderation, consistency, when the fear comes up of like, oh no, that's not okay, it's the only way, because the other way doesn't work anyway. So you may as well try the way that actually is going to work, you know? So it's just a reminder to put things into context. Like, this hasn't been working for me. What's plan B? And also, let me stop sharing my screen. I want to like leave everyone with one last quote. And this is from the amazing Jessica Pearl. I did a podcast with her a while back. No change ever comes from shame. No matter how much we think we can push ourselves or motivate ourselves or drive ourselves to do something, it only ever is successful short term. Because shame will only change things very short term, and then you'll go back to exactly how you were before. Whereas if you face the shame head on, work through that, set the same goals, but from a place of self-love, that's going to be damn more achievable and enjoyable and sustainable. It might just take a little bit longer, but you're actually going to get there.
And it'll bring the right behaviours, I guess, because shame automatically, for me, when I hear that word, creates a particular focus in my mind or a particular journey, which isn't the right journey.
Yeah. And everyone wants to be happy, right? If you ask like 90% of the people in the world, what do you want in life? Most people would say to be happy, right? That's what we want.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to have to stop talking because I can go like so in depth of what happiness even means and why that's not a realistic goal and whatever we should be striving for fulfillment and meaning through it all instead of happiness. But otherwise we'll be here all day. So I'm going to end it there.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. And thank you for everyone listening. And we'll see you next time.